I think it is time that the Commission finally admits that they have some responsibility for Brexit. Britain was always in favour of subsidiarity, of decentralisation, of competitiveness, and Brussels has continuously violated these principles. So it is like a country joining a football club and you decided to play golf or hockey. So finally, who has left really whom? Thirdly, I think from a business perspective, we have to recognise that Brexit is not only a disaster for Britain, it is also a disaster for the European Union. Let's face it, Britain is today the largest single customer of the European Union. And Britain leaving is the equivalent of 19 countries, smaller and medium-sized countries, leaving at the same time. So let's also recognise that Britain has been in this House always the advocate for freedom, for self-responsibility, for competitiveness. And without Britain in the European Union, I tell you, this European Union will remain uncompetitive as compared to other regions like North America, Asia, China, Japan, Southeast Asia, and so on.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very much hoping, after nearly 20 years, that this is my penultimate speech in this Parliament, that I won't be coming back here again in July. And I'm sure many of you here would share that sentiment. Mr. Barnier, I told you that treaty wouldn't go through the House of Commons. You didn't believe me. It's been rejected. I think you pushed your luck too far. You asked for too much, and this morning you find yourself short of £39 billion. So I'm sure you're feeling a bit sore about that. But don't worry, help is at hand, because the House of Commons today will do, I'm sure, their utmost to betray the Brexit vote. They're even going to vote against what Article 50 said, which is, of course, that we leave on the 29th of March with or without a deal. And I have to say, I think the gap now between our political class in the UK and public opinion is a gaping chasm, because be in no doubt, public opinion is hardening. There is a greater sense of unity in the country than I've seen for some years. We simply want to leave, and that applies to many who voted Remain as well, because they respect the very principle of democracy. And we've had enough. We've seen the snarling anger towards our country of Mr. Verhofstadt, the bureaucratic intransigence of Mr. Barnier, the constant stream of insults that come from Mr. Tusk, and we're of one mind. We don't want to be governed by you. We want to govern ourselves. Now, I'm sure the next instalment of this will be the British Prime Minister next Thursday going to the European Summit in Brussels, another humiliating display where she begs for an extension to Article 50. Well, I've got a solution to all of this. What I heard you, Mr. Barnier, this morning say that if this treaty, if this withdrawal agreement gets passed, the next phase of negotiations could last for up to 4 years. I thought, enough. We don't want to waste 4 more years of our life, 4 more years of agony, and you don't want to waste another 4 years. You've got your plan. You want a United States of Europe. You want your army. You want everyone to join the euro. You want to get rid of the nation states. We are just a damned nuisance. And add to that, as Mr. Verhofstadt said, the European elections. You don't want me coming back here or hordes of Eurosceptics coming back here. So there is a simple solution, and that is that the British request to extend is vetoed at that European summit. We leave on March the 29th. Most of the preparations have been done. Even if there are a few short-term bumps in the road, we leave, and both you and we can get on with the rest of our lives. That is the only neat solution ahead of us.
I come to the conclusion that there is very, very broad support in this Parliament for the way the Commission is negotiating on behalf of the European Union, its member states and this Parliament to try and reach an agreement with the United Kingdom on a withdrawal that would do as little harm as possible to both sides. Having listened to Mr. Farage and his colleagues, I sometimes wonder, has he gone to Sunderland and talked to the workers at the Nissan plant and said to them, it might cost you your job, but I will get my pipe dream of so-called sovereignty. But it might cost you your job, sorry, but I'll get my pipe dream of so-called sovereignty. Has he done that? Has Dr. Liam Fox ever said, well, I said it would be the easiest trade deal in human history, but on second thought, it's much more complicated than I promised before the referendum? Has Boris Johnson gone to the doctors and nurses of the NHS and said, I did promise you 350 million extra pounds a week, but sorry, I can't deliver on that promise? Have they done that? I think, frankly, that we would need, if we want to come out of this situation, a bit more modesty and honesty on all sides. I also believe I just refer to a report by the UK government published in November last year, where it said that if there's a no-deal Brexit, this would cost approximately 9.3% economic growth. Are you willing to pay that price? I asked the Brexiteers on this side. Are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to sacrifice all those jobs for your pipe dream of so-called sovereignty? What is that sovereignty going to bring to you if you live that pipe dream?
Freedom is essential.
I always hear one, do you understand, do you know the number 16.1 million? I never hear it mentioned. I always hear 17.4 million. Yes, but 16.1 million are also British citizens who voted to stay. They haven't disappeared. Isn't the essence of European democracy that we also respect the position of minorities in our countries? And to be very clear, why does the Commission stand so firm for the integrity of the internal market? Why don't we simply say, let's have open borders? I give you one example. If for some reason the United Kingdom would decide to have a trade deal with the United States on their terms, and chlorinated chicken would be coming into the United Kingdom, and we would not be able to check that at a European border, then we would not be able to say to European citizens, we can't protect you against something you don't want. We could never do that. That's why we have always to protect the integrity of the internal market. And I do pay tribute to Michel Barnier. We spared no effort to try and reconcile Madam May's red lines and her demands with our firm duty to protect the European Union and the integrity of the internal market. The withdrawal agreement is the best and only possible solution to that dilemma.
But, Mr. Henkel, may I ask you to tell this to your own friends in your own group in the ECR, who are the main people for a Brexit for the moment. It's a little bit easy to give lessons to us here, and especially to me, and saying, yeah, you don't like Britain, the opposite is true, but not to be capable to convince your own people in your own group, and who are not there for the moment to applaud you, I see. Nobody is there. Secondly, the reality, Mr. Henkel, is the following. Those who started this whole Brexit, who is in fact an attempt of the Conservative Party, you're working with the Conservative Party, you know them very well. It was in fact an attempt to take back control, and that was the big slogan of the Brexiteers, and is still the big slogan of the Brexiteers. It seems to me that Britain seems to be spinning out of control instead of being back in control. And I think that the only reasonable way, Mr. Henkel, to solve this problem, and you didn't talk about that, unfortunately, is that there is cross-party cooperation in British politics the fastest as possible, a compromise, a common view between Labour and the Conservatives. How you want to solve an existential problem like Brexit if it is used by both parties to kill each other? For them, Brexit is a bullet in a weapon, and not an existential problem of a country and of a whole continent. And that's a shame. So and your appeal have to be in this plenary, not to attack one or other colleague, but to say to the British political class, start to make an agreement between the two big parties. And that brings me to the next question, extension. I don't want a long extension, I say you that very openly. An extension why we go beyond the European elections, and the European elections will be hijacked by the Brexiteers and by the whole Brexit issue. We will talk only about that and not about the real problems and the real reforms that we need in the European Union. And the only thing what we will do, we will give a new mandate to Mr. Farage. That's the only thing what we're going to do. That's exactly what he wants. Why he wants that? For two reasons. First of all, he can continue to have a salary that he can transfer to his offshore company. And the second thing is that he can continue to do his work, dirty work in the European Union, that is to try to destroy the European Union from within. That is the real purpose. Well, and that is what you are, and he confirms. So what I think is that that's absolutely what we don't need. What we need is now certainty from the House of Commons, from a majority in the House of Commons, as Mr. Henkel has also asked for. That is what we need. And so I'm against every extension, when an extension of 1 day, 1 week, even 24 hours, if it is not based on a clear opinion of the House of Commons for something, that we know what they want. Is it less ambitious than the deal? Okay, it is less ambitious than the deal. That's your opinion. If it is a customs union, it is a customs union. If it is the deal, it is the deal. If it is a Norway plus, it's a Norway plus. But please make up your mind in London, because this uncertainty cannot continue. Not for us, not for Britain, and certainly not for our citizens. Thank you, President.
Per il gruppo Europa delle Nazioni della Libertà, la parola all'onorevole Batten.
Now, Mrs May be totally incompetent, but she is following a plan. Right from the start, the plan was to delay Brexit, impede Brexit, and finally to overturn Brexit. The whole leaving process has been built on false arguments. The principal one being that we cannot leave without the mythical good deal. Now, the deal is appallingly bad, and it has been rejected by the Commons, not because it was bad, but because it wasn't bad enough for them. Later today, Parliament will reject leaving on the so-called no-deal option, and on Thursday, it is likely to vote in favour of an extension of Article 50. But what for? Mr Juncker has already told Her Majesty's government, like naughty school children, that there will be no third chance to renegotiate. In the UK, we have a government and a parliament that does not want to leave the European Union, and it intends to betray the democratic decision of the referendum. Now, Councillor Timmermans has expressed his exasperation with the UK in rejecting the EU's deal. Mr Timmermans said that only the UK Parliament can give direction in this matter. But this is not so. The Council and Commission can give direction. When the Commons asks for an extension to Article 50, then you must reject it. Article 50 says that if no agreement is reached by the 29th of March, then the treaties automatically cease to apply. Do nothing and ensure that the UK is ejected from the European Union on the 29th of March. Do yourselves a favour, do us a favour, and kick us out.
Thank you, colleagues. This debate is running over on time, so I will have to be a little bit more strict with speakers.